everyone. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe coming to you from Los Angeles, California. It's Thursday evening here, February 4, 2021. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across North America. Carla Valdez in Union Township reports about New Jersey's action plan to prevent and reduce childhood trauma and adversity. Eric Hunter in San Antonio reports about a county judge urging the postponement of rodeos in San Antonio while organizers decide that the show will go on with protocols. Anna Cui in Las Vegas reports about how Nevada Clark County School District moves ahead with hybrid instructional model March 1st and updates on Nevada COVID vaccine efforts. Rafaela Tigno in North Hills, California.
Cal State LA has been selected as one of the 2 locations in the state for COVID-19 community vaccination center.
Annabelle De Mesa in Glendale, California.
Los Angeles votes to provide employees of pharmacy, retailers, and grocery stores an additional $5 an hour hazard pay during the pandemic.
Ika Era in Sacramento reports about the 5% increase in vaccine allocation for the state of California. For business news, Bobby Soriano in New York reports about Amazon's Bezos stepping down while electric vehicle competition is stepping up. And for tonight's roundtable, we will talk about National Thank a Mail Carrier Day. Our coverage begins now. The UN Security Council on Thursday voiced deep concern over the military's coup in Myanmar and called in a draft statement for the release of all detainees, including Aung San Suu Kyi.
The members of the Security Council expressed deep concern at the declaration of a state of emergency imposed in Myanmar by the military on the 1st of February and the arbitrary detention of members of the government, including State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi and President Win Myint and others. They called for the immediate release of all those detained. The members of the Security Council emphasised the need for the continued support of the democratic transition in Myanmar. They stressed the need to uphold democratic institutions and processes, refrain from violence, and fully respect human rights, fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law. They encouraged the pursuance of dialogue and reconciliation in a...
But the statement written by the United Kingdom no longer condemned the putsch as envisaged in a first draft during an emergency meeting on Tuesday. Diplomats said veto-wielding China and Russia, Myanmar's main supporters at the UN, had asked for more time to finesse the Council's response. The later statement also supports a return to dialogue and the democratic process in Myanmar, where the army has detained civilian leaders, including Suu Kyi. China's communist leadership has taken a softly approach to the coup. Beijing has called for all parties in Myanmar to resolve their differences, and the official Xinhua news agency on Monday described the coup as a major cabinet reshuffle. Myanmar is a vital piece of Beijing's huge belt and road infrastructure initiative. Meanwhile, in his first major speech on foreign affairs as president, Joe Biden announces his intention to massively increase the cap on annual refugee admissions to the U.S., addresses the situation in Myanmar following this week's coup, the relations with China, and the jailing of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. Take a look.
The United States' moral leadership on refugee issues was a point of bipartisan consensus for so many decades when I first got here. We shined the lamp of liberty on oppressed people. We offered safe havens for those fleeing violence or persecution. And our example pushed other nations to open wide their doors as well. So today, and I'm directing the State Department to consult with Congress about making a down payment on that commitment as soon as possible. We will work with our partners to support restoration of democracy and the rule of law and impose consequences on those responsible. The politically motivated jailing of Alexei Navalny and the Russian efforts to suppress freedom of expression and peaceful assembly are a matter of deep concern to us and the international community. Mr. Navalny, like all Russian citizens, is entitled to his rights under the Russian Constitution. We'll confront China's economic abuses, counter its aggressive, coercive action to push back on China's attack on human rights, intellectual property, and global governance. But we are ready to work with Beijing when it's in America's interest to do so. We've taken steps to acknowledge and address systemic racism and the scourge of white supremacy in our own country. Racial equity will not just be an issue for one department in our administration. It has to be the business of the whole of government in all our federal policies and institutions.
For tonight's COVID news, Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Tuesday took full responsibility and expressed regret and condolences as the UK death toll from COVID-19 passed the 100,000 mark.
I should just really repeat that I am deeply sorry for every life that has been lost, and of course as Prime Minister I take full responsibility for everything that the government has done. What I can tell you is that we truly did everything we could and continue to do everything that we can to minimise loss of life and to minimise suffering in what has been a very, very difficult stage and a very, very difficult crisis.
Official data showed Tuesday more than 100,000 people who tested positive for coronavirus have died in Britain since the pandemic took hold last year. Another 1,631 deaths were reported on Tuesday, bringing the total to 100,162 from nearly 3.7 million positive cases. Britain reported its first cases of the disease almost a year ago on January 29, 2020, but Prime Minister Boris Johnson was initially relaxed about introducing measures to tackle the spread. Then, as cases rose, he eventually relented and a lockdown was introduced in March. But questions have remained ever since about the government's approach, particularly its testing and tracing regime. At the time, National Health Service, the NHS, England Medical Director Stephen Powis said, "If we can keep deaths below 20,000, we will have done very well." The lockdown was ordered largely on the back of an Imperial College London study that warned 500,000 could die without severe measures and 250,000 with less stringent regulations. Since then, the country has endured another 2 waves of the virus and is currently mired in its 3rd and deadliest bout, blamed on a new variant that hit before the December holidays. Although case numbers have fallen over the past week, Chris Whitley, the government's chief medical officer, warned on Friday that the peak in deaths of the current wave was still in the future. In Mexico, the Interior Minister said Tuesday President Andrés Manuel López Obrador is recovering very well from the coronavirus. Standing in for the 67-year-old at his daily news conference this week, Olga Sánchez said López Obrador continues to perform his duties from the National Palace.
Se encuentra fuerte y se encuentra incluso interviniendo en algunas de las decisiones más importantes. Ayer estuvo, en fin, ha estado en confinamiento, sí, pero yo creo que muy fuerte y recuperándose muy bien.
She told reporters that the details of the leader's health were being kept confidential, calling it sensitive information, given his status as head of state. The left-wing populist, who has a history of heart problems and hypertension, announced Sunday that he was undergoing treatment for COVID-19, but said his symptoms were mild. López Obrador was accused of downplaying the risks of the virus early in the pandemic and for being slow to impose a lockdown. He has refused to wear a mask except on rare occasions, such as when he visited the then U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington last July. Mexico has officially registered around 1.77 million coronavirus cases and more than 150,000 deaths, the world's 4th highest fatality toll after the United States, Brazil, and India. Back in Washington, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she is very pleased that the U.S. House approved the budget resolution for the COVID-19 relief package, before adding that she hopes the Senate will pass the bill in the next 48 hours.
I'm very pleased that it passed a budget resolution. We passed a budget resolution that paves the way for the passage of landmark coronavirus legislation that will save lives and livelihoods. Our committees now will continue to work on the bill context, so that will be all. Well, as soon as the Senate finishes their work, and then we pass on what they did, so hopefully that's the next 48 hours, then we can signal that we're ready to mark up the bills.
And during her weekly press conference at the U.S. Capitol, Pelosi also tells journalists that you cannot go forward until you have justice regarding the need for former President Trump's impeachment trial over the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol.
As to why bother? Why bother? Ask our founders why bother. Ask those who wrote the Constitution. Ask Abraham Lincoln. Ask anyone who cares about our democracy why we are bothering. You cannot go forward until you have justice.
Pelosi also briefly touches on the situation in Myanmar and Russia.
Myanmar, they said they were arresting her for importing illegal radios, and in Russia they arrested Navalny for not reporting to his probation officer or something like that. So again, it's an interesting time to see demagoguery around the world, and we have to prevent it from happening in our country. Yes, Chuck?
Now for today's COVID-19 numbers. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University and Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, February 4, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 104,792,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases are the U.S. with 26.6 million, India with 10.7 million, and Brazil with 9.3 million. To date, more than 2,280,000 have succumbed to this virus. Top three countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths are the U.S. at more than 455,000, Brazil at more than 280,000, and Mexico at more than 161,000. When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents in Union Township, New Jersey, San Antonio, Texas, and Las Vegas, Nevada. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Tuloy-tuloy ang saya sa 2021 dahil hatid ng Net25 para sa inyo ang pinakabagong game show na talaga namang mapapakanta ka sa sarap. It's singing time na! Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. Dito lang yan sa Net25.
It's singing time!
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. The state of New Jersey introduces a statewide strategy to combat childhood trauma and adversity. In Union Township, New Jersey Bureau Chief Carlo Valdez files this report.
Thanks, Alan. The state of New Jersey launched the state's first Adverse Childhood Experiences Action Plan. This plan is a comprehensive statewide strategy to prevent and reduce childhood trauma and adversity. The plan is to lead the nation in building strong, healthy, and resilient families. Let's hear what Governor Murphy had to say.
Today is I think, a truly great day for New Jersey families. So from the very beginning, our administration set out to build, you've heard us say so often, the stronger and fairer New Jersey that works not just for some, but for everybody. And that meant examining cold-bloodedly, starkly, our greatest challenges in depth and from every possible angle, and creating comprehensive, groundbreaking solutions to those challenges. In other words, looking in the mirror, looking at exactly what we see, and then developing a plan to figure out how to get better. Childhood trauma happens across such a wide spectrum of experiences that no one person, no nonprofit, or no government agency or organization can address it on their own. We need to be proactive as we contend with effects of ACEs, the mental and physical effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, as if it weren't enough already, and as we work hard to break the cycle of trauma that has resulted from centuries of systemic racism and discrimination. This interagency statewide plan is integral to tackling childhood trauma before it manifests into negative health outcomes. And I'm especially hopeful for New Jersey's mothers and babies as this plan supports the newly released Nurture NJ Maternal and Infant Health Strategic Plan.
And as for coronavirus stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 2,503 new positive PCR tests, pushing the total to 633,731. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting 101 new COVID-19 deaths, pushing the total to 19,606 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Well, building strong, healthy, resilient families has positive ramifications in this country and most likely even beyond. Thank you, Carlo, for that report. Now, we go to the Lone Star State, where our newest correspondent, a native of Germany, now calls Texas home. Eagle News correspondent Eric Hunter reports about a county judge urging the postponement of a rodeo in San Antonio while organizers decide the show will go on, but with safety protocols. Take a look.
Thank you, and howdy from the Lone Star State. One of the many things Texas is known for and famous, rodeos are one of the most prominent ones. And the historical city of San Antonio is no exception. Earlier this year, the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo is a popular event that helps fund scholarships for students. While other rodeos around Texas already have canceled or postponed their events, the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo has decided to continue and will run February 11th till the 28th at the Freeman Coliseum. Earlier this week, however, Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf has written a letter to the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo Chairman Nancy Loeffler to postpone the event due to concerns about COVID-19 variant strains. In this letter, Judge Wolf stated, "I suggest that it would be best to postpone the rodeo for now. With attendees reaching up to 4,000 people each night, some 56,000 people will attend the 14-day event." He mentioned cities like Austin and Fort Worth already canceled their events. Despite many rodeos being canceled, The San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo plans to continue their event and will implement protocols to create a safe environment for the participants and attendees alike. Some of these measures include mandatory masks for guests up to above the age of 4, temperature checks at each entrance, reduced occupancy at the Freeman Coliseum and livestock barns, digital tickets, as well as the daily disinfecting of the facilities, and hand-washing sanitation stations throughout the rodeo grounds. Meanwhile, I hope you are staying safe in your part of the country. In San Antonio, Texas, I'm Eric Hunter, Eagle News. We surely live in interesting times. Back to you to the studio.
Thanks for the report, Eric, and welcome to Eagle News America. You're in good hands over there with our Texas Bureau. Up next, updates from Las Vegas, Nevada, North Hills, Glendale, and Sacramento, California. Eagle News will return in a moment. Stay with us.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas! A one-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Probinsya. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to our Health Outdoor
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Nakakataas balahibo yung ginawa nyo. Kanta pa lang ng Pinoy, di ba?
Umpisa pa lang talaga namang totoo nga, kinilabutan din ako.
Yung level of difficulty talagang kitang-kita namin.
More dance action dito lang sa Tagisan ng Galing Part 2 Dance Edition!
Gusto namin maging happy ang mga viewers sa amin pagpapatawa
sa amin pag-entertain, iba-ibang segments and games.
Batanes! Batanes!
The jackpot prize of 58,000 pesos. Ang tamang sagot na hinahanap natin.
3, 2, 1!
Happy peeps, on the Happy Time stage, please welcome.
Magandang dilag sa isip mo, aman mo.
Thank you po. Ay, maraming salamat po.
Taos puso po kami nagpapasalamat sa malaking tulong na inabot niyo po sa amin.
Please watch Happy Time every day, Monday to Friday, dito lang sa Net 25. Happy Time, Happy Time,
Mga orihinal na musikang Pilipino.
Mga paborito nating singers.
Mga kompositor sa likod ng magaganda nating awitin.
Mga mahuhusay nating Pinoy artists and performers.
Ito ang programang nagbibigay pugay sa talento at musikang sanlibutan.
I get to touching you. It's you. I've been waiting for so long. I'm in love. I think I'm in love. Na minsan ang minahal ay ako.
Ito ang Himig ng Lahi.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. In an effort to facilitate with ease COVID-19 immunizations, Cal State Los Angeles will now be one of 2 locations in the state to become a community vaccination center. In North Hills, Rafaela Tigno has the details.
Thank you, Alan. Cal State LA is selected to be one of the 2 locations in California for the new COVID-19 Community Vaccination Center, which is a direct result of a partnership between the state of California and federal government to set up vaccine distribution throughout the nation. Jose Gomez, the university's executive vice president, states, Cal State LA has a long history of collaborating with and serving in the community. We are dedicated to engagement, service, and the public good. Our role as a vaccination center is another example of that dedication. We are grateful to President Biden and Governor Newsom for this opportunity. Federal and state officials are joining forces to organize these vaccination sites, which are planned to open on February 16 to qualified individuals. The centers will be managed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA for short, and the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. Los Angeles residents will be able to sign up for vaccination appointments at the state's My Turn website. Hilda Solis, the District 1 County Board of Supervisors, says establishing a large-scale federal state community vaccination center on the Cal State LA campus in the heart of Los Angeles County and in a hard-hit community is a welcome signal that we are ramping up at the federal, state, and local level with the practical, boots-on-the-ground solutions we need to put an end to this deadly pandemic. In North Hills, California, Rafaela Tigno, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
All right, Rafaela. So what is the update on the COVID-19 situation here in Los Angeles County?
Alan, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health announced yesterday that there is now a 3rd case of the COVID-19 variant B117.
Rafaela, what is the update on the COVID-19 situation here in Los Angeles County?
Alan, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health announced yesterday that there is now a third case of the COVID-19 variant B117, which was originally discovered in the United Kingdom. This strain is known to be more infectious and easily transmitted, so public health officials are cautioning Angelenos to strictly comply more with the required health safety measures, especially with the Super Bowl coming up. Everyone is advised to watch the game from their homes and their immediate household as much as possible. And if they would like to gather with their friends to enjoy the Super Bowl, it is highly recommended to gather and connect virtually and online. Alan.
Now, Ella, a little bit later in our broadcast, we're going to be making mention of postal workers. Specifically, we're going to be talking about National Thank a Mail Carrier Day. We'll be asking you maybe some ideas of what we can do to show how much we thank our postal workers, specifically the mail carriers. But I want to ask you before that, Ella, do you have much contact with your own mail carrier?
No, I don't have.
And is that because of the pandemic or?
Well, I don't usually go out, so I don't usually meet them.
Well, that's certainly something that I can't blame you. Me too. I stay indoors as much as possible. Thank you very much, Ella, for that report. An additional $5 per hour will be given to employees of pharmacy retailers and grocery stores as hazard pay in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Glendale, Eagle News correspondent Annabelle De Mesa with the story.
Thank you, Alan. The Los Angeles City Council unanimously votes to proceed with the proposed emergency ordinance requiring pharmacy retailers and large grocery stores to offer an additional $5 an hour to their employees for hazard pay during this pandemic. Los Angeles joins other cities such as Long Beach in this emergency ordinance to provide those in this hard-hit industry with additional incentives for their daily hard work, despite the impacts it can have on their health. Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors Chair Hilda Solis has stated, the COVID-19 pandemic has made clear the importance of industries deemed essential, including grocery and drug retail employees. Since the beginning of the pandemic, these workers have continued to show up to their jobs despite the dangers of being exposed to COVID-19. Because of their work on the front lines, families throughout the county have been able to access the food and medicine they need during the pandemic. While there is a light at the end of the tunnel, with the approval and administration of the vaccine, the health threats these workers face are as real as they were at the beginning of the pandemic, given the surge of cases in our county. It is imperative that we act with urgency to support just compensation for grocery and drug retail employees by requiring their employers to provide hero pay. Council President Nuri Martinez has said the health threat that these grocery workers face cannot be overstated. Recent studies before the current surge report grocery workers to be 5 times more likely to test positive. For Los Angeles, this ordinance would require pharmacy retailers and grocery retailers with 10 or more employees on site and 300 or more employees nationally to add the additional $5 per hour in hazard pay to all non-managerial hourly employees. In Glendale, California, Annabelle De Mesa, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
So, Annabelle, this hazard or hero pay, how long are we expecting this to last?
The additional $5 per hour would be required for 120 days. It would be a great financial help to our grocery store workers who are always on the front lines of this pandemic to help us obtain our food and groceries for their households. Alan?
And speaking of other heroes, because, postal workers specifically, again, our mail carriers, they face hazards whenever they go deliver mail especially from over-anxious dogs. So, Annabelle, what I want to ask you is, do you have much contact with your mail carrier these days?
I don't have the same postal worker coming to our house delivering our mail, but we have enough strangers that it's almost like being in a public area. A grateful experience that I had with one of them is when I recently dislocated my knee. I was going up the stairs in crutches, and one of my postal workers told me, "You're going to be okay." I tore something, much worse than you did, because I told him I didn't tear anything. I just dislocated something. And he said he tore something. And he's already good to go, lifting 50 pounds and more to people, 2 stories, 3 stories, and more. So it was a discouraging part of my life. But because of his concern, I was able to be motivated throughout the rest of the day. It really made it.
A little touch of humanity really goes a long way. And I'm glad that postal worker, that mail carrier, was able to give you a little bit of encouragement. I like that story. Annabelle, if you have more later on our broadcast, feel free. And of course, we'll ask you maybe some ideas that we could do to show our appreciation for mail carriers on National Appreciate Mail Carrier Day. Thank you, Mail Carrier Day. Thanks for the report, Annabelle.
Sounds good. Thank you, Alan.
The state of California receives a 5% increase in COVID-19 vaccine supply allocation as tens of thousands of shots are administered daily. In Sacramento, Eagle News correspondent Aika Era files this report.
With almost a year in quarantine, there is hope of a better future with the current campaign of vaccinating California. Tens of thousands of shots are being administered almost every day with the goal of helping to end this pandemic. With the rollout of these vaccines, California is starting to move forward with its vaccination phase, moving to more people and expanding access to receiving one. Something else that will help in this vaccination campaign is that California is projected to receive a 5% increase in vaccines in the next coming week. Although it may be a small increase, the amount of vaccines that California will be receiving will greatly help in the goal of being able to vaccinate all 58 counties. Currently in Sacramento County, there have been a total of 125,529 doses administered to this day. Sacramento is now in Phase 1B of the phased vaccination plan of California. This means that those who are 65 years of age or older are now eligible to receive a vaccine. This also includes those that may be at risk in their work sector, such as education, food and agriculture, and emergency services. Those in Phase 1A, which are healthcare workers and long-term care residents, are still also being treated at this time. The journey has indeed been long and harsh, but there is hope in the vaccines that are being distributed. Although these vaccines are bringing us closer towards the end of this pandemic, there is still much work to do. Be safe, keep upholding the guidelines of social distancing, washing hands, and so on. Together, we can help bring this pandemic to an end. In Sacramento, California, Aika Era, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
That's welcome news about this increase in the allocation of the vaccine. We hope that it's not contained just up there in Sacramento, that it will move throughout the entire state, because we do need more inoculations. Thank you, Aika, for that report. Clark County in Nevada is moving forward with hybrid instruction beginning March 1st. And updates on the state's COVID vaccination efforts. In Las Vegas, Bureau Chief Anna Cui joins us tonight.
Thank you, Alan. So it looks like it's finally a go for Nevada Clark County School District to transition to hybrid instructional model starting March 1, with pre-K through 3rd grade educators and support staff returning to school campuses a week before on February 22. Alan, I say finally because last year in 2020, they've tried 3 times, the school board of trustees tried to vote on this matter, and because of the pandemic, of course, it couldn't happen until now. All elementary schools in the Clark County School District will open for this hybrid instruction model, but families will still have a choice to have their children continue with the full-time distance learning model if that's what they prefer. However, teachers and other support staff for the said grade levels don't have that same option. The return to campus is mandatory according to the Memorandum of Agreement signed between Clark County School District and Clark County Education Association. So how are they going to do this? I mean, we could imagine a lot of things have to be done, right, Alan? So there is a 235-page guide from CCSD that outlines the reopening plan to to provide answers and help for schools and parents during the transition. The primary structure of the hybrid scenario shows students will be divided into 3 cohorts. So the first 2 will be a mix of 2 days of distance learning and 3 days of in-person instruction, and vice versa. And the third cohort will be full-time distance education, just like what they're doing now, which may be needed for students and families who may still be uncomfortable with going back to school in person, or maybe they have family members who are in the high-risk category and they want to limit exposure from other people, which is totally understandable. Now, the district will work to transition additional grade levels to the hybrid instructional model throughout the second semester. That is the plan. However, at this time, there is no timeline that they've provided for that. Now, things may look a little different. Everyone will have to wear a mask. Social distancing will be strictly observed. Classroom size will be smaller, and the layout of the classroom will also look different. The guide outlines that certain areas of the school will be blocked off. You know, social distancing markings will be all over school campuses as well. And, you know, although all of these things we've been accustomed to seeing, right, since the start of the pandemic, but it may be a lot different to the children. You know, maybe some of them have not been exposed to, you know, to those things. It's also going to be a little different for parents and guardians, because it definitely won't be an easy send-off to school for the kids. They have to go through a checklist every morning before sending them out, making sure they have a mask, you know, check their temperature. They have this 5-question checklist that they have to go through with their kids. Do they have new symptoms of cough, you know, chills? Do they have loss of taste or smell? Have they come in contact with anyone who have tested positive in the last 10 days? And, you know, they really have to remind them to follow the key safety health measures as well. So, Alan, just like with our frontline healthcare workers and other frontline workers, we have to applaud those in the education system and parents and guardians as well, because it's really going to take a whole village to make this work. Now, before I let you go, a quick update on the COVID vaccine efforts here in Nevada. The Nevada Department of Health and Human Services has launched a vaccination call center. I reported on this last time with Thomas, but at that time they didn't have details yet. This time we have the details. They can answer questions and assist those who may need help making an appointment. The call center is open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week and can be reached at 800-401-0946. Additionally, the analytics department of the Department of Health and Human Services added a dashboard tab to provide weekly COVID vaccine numbers to the existing COVID-19 dashboard found on the Nevada Health Response website. Currently, there are over 288,000 total administered vaccines in the state, including over 45,000 vaccines completed, which accounts to just a little over 9% of the state population. In Las Vegas, Anna Cui, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Well, Anna, I do have a question about the handbook or the guide to reopening schools. But before I get to that, you know, you did mention quite eloquently that, of course, we always recognize educators, even the students, their efforts in online learning. But you also did mention parents and guardians. I know for a fact that you are a parent of a student. Can you talk to us about what it's been like for your student or students when it comes to online learning? Are they as disciplined as they were when they were still in class? Do they still fix their hair in the morning and wear, or do they just wear whatever pajamas they have when they do the online learning? Can you share that with us?
My daughter is probably going to kill me if she happens to watch this, but you know, she's very disciplined when it comes to doing her schoolwork. But there are times when I picked in her room, and because now they don't make it mandatory for them to turn on their cameras anymore when they're attending class. So there have been times when I see her laying in bed and still in her pajamas with her laptop open.
Mm-hmm,
so,
yes.
But the most important thing is, you know, she still gets her schoolwork done, no problem. She's actually a senior graduating this year, and thankfully she's a very good student, Alan. She's a straight A student, so I'm really proud of her.
Well, we have no doubt about her academic achievements, because if she's anything like mom and dad, then I think her good grades are in the bag. Now let's go back, Anna, to this handbook or guide to opening schools there in Novara. What else can you tell us about that?
Well, this handbook, it is pretty extensive, over 200 pages. But in addition to the health and safety checklist provided to the parents, which I think it's a great idea, it's even in Spanish as well, so that makes it even better. It also includes protocols should someone become sick and maybe have been exposed to COVID-19. So it talks about the important role of the school nurse and having a designated sick room with all the PPE and other supplies needed specific for that sick room, including like a private bathroom for, students that might, be sent to the nurse. And it talks about people being properly trained to use, including PPEs, including an N95 mask, those who will be helping the school nurse should there be students that will be sent to that. It talks about increased sanitation, cleaning process, and ionized air filtration system, especially in that designated sick room. Alan?
Sounds like quite a comprehensive plan. Later on, we're going to be talking about, Anna, as you heard, National Thank Your Mail Carrier Day. And so I just want to ask you before we let you go, your mail carrier, are you on a first-name basis with them or not?
I'm really embarrassed to say that I have not seen my mail carrier in I can't remember the last time. I would say probably 3 years. I haven't seen our mail carrier deliver mail because we're not home during the day. Well, even when we're home, working from home, we don't go outside, so I don't even know what time they come anymore. But this is a good reminder for me, Alan, to be nice to be nice and do something nice for our mail carrier.
Well said, because whether we see them or not, somehow our mail is always delivered. And later on, we'll ask you any ideas of what we could do to show our appreciation. Thank you so much for your report, Anna.
Thank you, Alan.
When we come back, business news. Plus, tonight's roundtable about National Thank a Mail Carrier Day. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Mayos ka dyan, nagigigil na ako sa'yo.
Bakit ganito TV natin? May snow.
Uy! Kasi tahimik na kayo. Ay, Kapitan! Nakikita kita. Madalas mong kausap si Teacher Jennifer. Ay! Ayoko na nga ako mag-aral, Teacher Jennifer! Kailangan mo mag-online class! Hoy!
Sumaya tayong lahat. Kay saya-saya.
Yan ang problema sa pag ang magkakalaban puro winners. Napakahirap i-judge.
Ay, naku, yung confidence mo, ang galing-galing. Control yung voice, ang galing. Nako, kaya nga napatayo ako eh. And another tayo ulit.
Lahat naman talaga sila mahusay eh. Pero syempre, pipiliin namin kung sino talaga yung pinaka-the best.
Nakapikit lang ako. Bihira akong binukas ang mata ko kasi parang dinuduyan ako, parang gusto kong matulog.
I like your performance.
Ngayong Sabado, the search continues para sa mga kababayan nating may natatanging galing sa pagkanta. Sino-sino ang mga bagong kalahok na magpapakitang gilas sa kantahan? Nako, malalaman po natin yan dito sa biggest talent competition on Philippine TV and online. Ito po ang Taging sa Nagaling Part 2 Sing Edition.
Several stories from our business desk in New York. Bobby Soriano files this report.
Good evening. U.S. markets have closed. Here are your latest business headlines. Jeff Bezos, founder and CEO of Amazon, has announced he will be stepping down from his position this year. During his 26-year tenure as CEO, Mr. Bezos grew the company into a multi-trillion-dollar giant, even in the face of an economic downturn due to the pandemic and intensifying scrutiny over its anti-competitive business practices. Along with the growth of Amazon was the growth of his personal net worth, with Mr. Bezos having surpassed Bill Gates as the world's richest person in 2018, and now regularly competes with Tesla founder Elon Musk for the title. Like many other high-profile billionaires, Mr. Bezos now looks to expand his legacy beyond the company that he founded, devoting his time to his new company Blue Origin, which looks to advance space exploration in ways similar to Elon Musk's SpaceX venture. Andy Jassy, who began his career at the company in 1997 and is currently the CEO of Amazon Web Services, will replace Mr. Bezos later this year. Meanwhile, the electric vehicle competition is starting to heat up, with news from both industry veterans and newcomers alike. Ford and Google on Monday announced a partnership to use the internet company's services to power future in-car features and improve factory efficiency. Ford chief executive Jim Farley said in a joint release that, quote, Google and Ford coming together establishes an innovation powerhouse truly able to deliver a superior experience for our customers and modernize our business. Mr. Farley hopes that the partnership with Google will be the start of a long-term transition to a fully electric vehicle lineup, which began with the Mustang Mach-E late last year and looks to soon expand to Ford's other well-known models, the F-150 pickup truck and its transit van, a staple of many commercial business fleets. Not to be left behind in the EV space, reports yesterday surfaced of Apple looking to finalize a deal with Hyundai Kia to manufacture a self-driving electric vehicle here in the United States. Sources familiar with the deal stated that Apple looks to utilize Hyundai's manufacturing capabilities to produce and design its own branded autonomous car, while Hyundai looks to use Apple's technology to accelerate its own electric vehicle plans. Production of the Apple car would not be expected to start until 2024, but it's apparent through these announcements that market leaders in the automotive and technology sectors are already moving the pieces to be on the forefront of the seemingly inevitable EV transition. Turning to this week's economic news, first-time jobless claims for last week stood at an adjusted 779,000, continuing a downward trend in recent weeks, but still elevated above regular levels. U.S. indices closed in the green today in light of the good economic news and reported progress on the planned stimulus package from lawmakers. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thanks, Bobby, for that report. And it's quite timely because you mentioned how Jeff Bezos is stepping down from Amazon because, today is National Thank a Mail Carrier Day, because we all know that long before Amazon, there was the Postal Service. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how we can show our appreciation to our mail carriers and maybe even any stories that you might have. Joining us today is our group of correspondents on our discussion. So I want to welcome all of you. And yes, we even have Eliza over there in Washington joining us as well. So National Thank a Mail Carrier Day. I want to start off with Ella. Ella, talk about it. How can we show, what nice things can we do to show our appreciation to our mail carriers?
Alan, there are a lot of nice things you can do to show appreciation to our mail carriers. For example, you can bake them cookies and give them as a gift. You can also make nice thank you cards. Although this is very simple, the thank you cards can bring a great message to them for appreciating all their efforts in delivering our mails on time on us. Alan.
I'm glad you mentioned thank you cards, because sometimes the question comes up about what about gift cards? What about cash? And actually, we do have an excerpt here from the USPS website. And I'm just going to read it really quickly. Carriers are permitted to accept a gift worth $20 or less from a customer per occasion. However, cash and cash equivalents, such as checks or gift cards that can be exchanged for cash, must never be accepted in any amount. Furthermore, no employee may accept more than $50 worth of gifts from any one customer in any one calendar year period. This means cash and gift cards are not options. So we can certainly go with Rafaela's recommendation when it comes to thank you cards. That's excellent, Rafaela. Thank you for that contribution. Let's move on to Anna. Anna, what can you talk to us about this National Thank Your Mail Carrier Day?
Well, thanks for the reminder, Alan, because I was going to say, a gift card at least. But thank you. I didn't know that that's against the law. So probably then, since I can't bake, probably a bag of, a bag of different snacks. These days, an extra nice mask probably could be of good use as well. Alan?
And just like our earlier business news report, quite timely, right, to give mail carriers some kind of face mask, because we can just imagine they're walking around all day in all sorts of weather, and to have a fresh mask at their disposal could really help them out a lot. So that's excellent. I wish I could take credit for that when my mail carrier shows up, to give them fresh new masks. But I'll give credit where credit is due, and I'll thank my fellow correspondent, bureau chief over there in Las Vegas. Let's move on to Eliza. Eliza, what can you talk to us about this National Thank Your Mail Carrier Day?
Okay, Alan, the nicest thing a mail carrier has ever done for us is put a stamp on my mail when I forgot to put one on it. Had he not done that, this was a long time ago, I would have missed the payment deadline for that bill. Now, I tried paying him back. Don't get me wrong. I tried paying him back a few days after, but he wouldn't accept my then 39 cents. I think it was still 39 cents. But now it's 55 cents, I think, for one stamp. Anyway, since they cannot accept cash and gift cards, maybe gloves to use during the wintertime, or maybe a stainless steel water bottle would help during the summer.
All of those are gifts that I think anybody would appreciate, but a postal worker, a mail carrier, being able to take that with them as they do their rounds, I think would mean a lot. That's a great recommendation over there, Eliza. Thanks for that. Why don't we move on to Annabelle? How about you? What can you tell us about this National Thank a Mail Carrier Day?
It's an idea that my best friend inspired in me because she often gives me water bottles. They're cheap, but they're super useful and super thoughtful too. So if I were to give anything to our mail carriers who are in super physically demanding jobs in unpredictable environments, just for us to get our order from Amazon or eBay, I definitely give them some of the water bottles that we have. It's just so they can get a refresher once in a while, a water break from all those climbing stairs, going through yards with big dogs. And it's also a thoughtful gift because we don't have to give them a water bottle, but we also do care about their well-being as well as ours. So water bottle is a good gesture.
I'm just imagining that because you mentioned Amazon, having an Amazon package when your mail carrier shows up and go, hey, this Amazon package, it's your competitor, but it's for you. They open it, turns out it's a gift for them, and it's a water bottle. That would be quite a scene to film. Thank you for that, Annabelle. I myself will just tell a really quick story when it comes to the Postal Service. I had on an occasion needed to visit my Postmaster General in my area. I had a bit of complaint that I needed help on, and he was quite a nice gentleman. When I arrived to his office, he had in his on his wall a big a portrait with wording on it that I probably can't remember exactly what it said, but it says something along the nature of, if we don't do the job right, someone else will do it for our customers. And I told him, well, I can see where that sentiment comes from, because after all, we did mention Amazon, we have these other delivery companies. But I reminded him, when it comes to things like my tax returns, my car registration renewal, things of that nature, I don't get those items from any other delivery organization except the United States Postal Service, who also delivers everything else under the sun. And so I said, when that statement on his wall that said someone else will do the job, I said that's not always true. In some cases, only the USPS can deliver certain items. So we want to recognize the United States Postal Service, of course, our postal workers, the mail carriers, not just them. We also join together to continue to thank our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers with a round of applause. We appreciate you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alan Basoyahe. We live in interesting times.